Thanks for tuning in to the Urban Scope podcast. We definitely have to address this Luka Doncic, Anthony Davis trade. A very shocking trade, especially around the mid-season point. Usually, this is a trade designated for the off-season uh, type deal, but this blockbuster trade. Uh, at first, when I saw it, I thought I was reading my phone wrong because I woke up in the middle of the night, saw the trade, didn't think it was actually a thing. Thought I read it wrong, but when I saw it, I found out it was real. I didn't understand the trade first off, just because the simple fact of a straight up trade for Anthony Davis for Luka Doncic doesn't seem like a fair trade um, for the Lakers. Well, not for the Lakers, but for Dallas, it doesn't seem like a fair trade. But when you see all the other pieces, you kind of understand more, but it still doesn't make sense in the terms of trying to get better in terms of Dallas. Now, I'll break down this trade. Um, the Lakers are going to get Luka, Maxi Kleber, and Markieff Morris from the Mavs. Dallas is going to get Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and the Lakers 2029 first pick, which probably be a low pick because they will probably still have LeBron, or if not, they have LeBron, they'll still have Luka, and they'll build pieces around him. So that trade won't, well, that pick won't be worth much, or it shouldn't be worth much in 2029 when they try to get that pick. And the Jazz receive Jalen Hood Schifino, the Clippers 2025 second round pick, and the Mavs 2025 second round selection. Uh, and the Mavs GM said something interesting. He said that when justifying his trade to get Anthony Davis for Luka Doncic, he said that defense wins championships. So it seems like they were trying to make a move now to get better, but it doesn't make sense in the grand scheme of things because even last year, with all of Doncic's flaws, defensive flaws, they still made the NBA championship, and they still went all the way. They were only probably a few pieces away from doing that. But Kyrie is not much of a defender either. But they have other defensive players around, so they can hide behind those players, so to speak. That's why this trade doesn't make sense to me in that regard. So you're gonna have to remember this quote from the GM when it comes to if he loses his job or they end up going their separate ways, because making trades like this doesn't make sense, and it ultimately will cause you your job as a GM. Now, it was speculation that Luka wanted out of Dallas, and people were saying maybe he wanted out of Dallas. And then there was this whole situation where Anthony Davis, we haven't seen him for like a month. We haven't seen Luka for a while either, due to so-called injuries. And it makes sense now that they were just holding them out to make this trade, but you're trading one injured player for another injured player. And in sense of basketball terms, one perpetually injured player for another perpetually injured player. And this trade doesn't make sense just for the simple fact of age matter as well. Luka is only 25 years old, and Anthony Davis he's 31 years old right now, and he's always been injured, and history shows us that it will continue to happen, unfortunately. Um, the only thing that this trade would make sense of is because there were speculations and reports out of ESPN, I believe, that said that Dallas didn't want to offer Luka the money, the 5-year, $345 million Supermax contract, because they were skeptical or disgusted, so to speak, with his lack of dieting and conditioning, which one of the big issues throughout Anthony Davis's career is his injury history. And some people speculate that maybe he's not training well. Once he gets with LeBron, it'll get fixed. It was fixed during the COVID year, and that's because they set out for a few months before they started back up, and he was pretty healthy that season, but they had a lot of months to recover. But other than that, it's always been little knick-knack injuries, eye injuries lately. He has an abdominal strain right now that has plagued him throughout his career, not just with the Lakers, but with the Pelicans as well. In college, he was relatively healthy, but recent years, he hasn't been that same kind of healthy that they wanted to get back for the player that they looked for. His talent can be denied, but like I said, the best ability is availability, and he hasn't had that availability in his career for the most part. And now this trade made me think about the Dallas fans, not only just the Dallas Mavericks, but the Dallas Cowboys. I know it's tough to be a Dallas fan right now. The Cowboys didn't make the playoffs last season, or this season, so to speak, because it's still going. They didn't make the playoffs. They didn't get the coach they wanted. It's just been bad all around. Just they had injuries everywhere. So, and Dallas seems like the Mavericks are on the decline as well, just from the camaraderie issues. And then you're getting a player that's already injured right now. And how long will he be out? I mean, luckily you have the All-Star break, give him a couple of weeks to get healthy. But this trade schematically doesn't make sense as well, because you have Luka going to the Lakers with LeBron, but they're two ball dominant players who require a lot of the offense running through them. How is that going to work as far as from a schematic standpoint? And they're not going to put Luka on the bench or LeBron on the bench and play them opposite each other. They're going to be on the floor in the starting lineups at the same time. Now, this trade could benefit the Lakers now, but I think it's more of a later type deal. Jenny Buss is thinking long term, and she should, because LeBron is 40 years old, and Jenny Buss is going to look to move to the next era of the Lakers era, and doesn't want to be stranded with nothing once LeBron leaves. And just having Anthony Davis won't get it done. I believe she'll be better suited to get Luka, and you can put pieces around Luka, get a big man, build around that. But right now, the way the team is currently constructed, it won't be a success recipe for them right now, but in the long term, it will. But once again, they will have to find a way, or they will have to pay Luka that $345 million, especially since you traded AD. You have to keep him in that Lakers uniform. Otherwise, that trade is for naught, and you'll be left with nothing at the end of the day once LeBron retires. And you'll have to work through the draft, which we know is, it's not a good chance, or it's a lower chance than having Luka right now, because Luka is a sure thing. But all in all, I think this trade, like I said, at first they were saying that they wanted just defense. That's why they got Anthony Davis. But then they came back around and said, well, it's his lack of dieting and his lack of conditioning, which it seems like the Mavericks would have never said this about Luka if they were trying to put him on the trade block and trying to get ultimate value for him. They're saying these things now because they're trying to justify their reasoning for this trade, and they're trying to make themselves look better. But at the end of the day, they still look crazy at this trade, because, trading a player in his prime at 25 is unheard of. No one can imagine Jordan or Kobe getting traded at 25 in the middle of their prime years, just for a player that's, perpetually injured and on the backside of his career. Now, Anthony Davis is still dominant, but like I said, he's not available most of the time due to these knick-knack injuries. He's going to miss games here and there. You can probably pencil him in for 15 to 20 games missed every year. Luka does have the injury history just off the hamstring, and they said that the Mavs were reporting that they were scared to pay him because of his injury history itself. But he's a lot younger, so he can correct those things now. And I think working with LeBron might help him better, and finding a trainer and finding a better diet and things like that, and getting him well trained and things like that. So I think that trade could benefit him in that way. But I thought about Kyrie as well from this trade. How will it affect Kyrie? Because Kyrie stayed there, it seems like, because of Luka. He had a close connection with Luka, and they seem to play off each other well. So will this Luka trade influence Kyrie to get out of Dallas eventually? The trade deadline is coming up. So will Kyrie want to get out? Kyrie has been, playing very well lately. He's been staying out of the limelight in the media in negative ways. So it's going to be interesting to see what he does from a standpoint of trying to fit along with the team. Is he going to give this Anthony Davis thing a try, or will he want to get out and, eventually go to the Lakers himself? A couple of years ago, he was rumored to be in a running to be on that Lakers team. So all of this stuff is going to play out. It's going to get very ugly before it makes sense, because Luka's team is going to get their information out there more than likely, and then the Dallas is going to keep trying to save face and trying to justify why they made this absurd trade. So, tell me what you think about the trade and your feelings about the trade in the comments. And then, as always, thanks for the support and the likes and the subscribes. And until next time, I'll see you next time.